Licio,
Here.
Tabit,
Here.
Ward,
Here. And I'm here. So at this time, I'd ask you to rise and recite the pledge to the flag with us, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for whose stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Administrator, any additions or changes to the agenda?
yes, we do have a few items. D and E on the consent agenda are to be removed. They'll be on the next city council meeting. I need to make some adjustments to the RCA and provide some clarification there. I do want to note item F on the consent agenda should read approve resolution 2021-025 authorizing the execution of joint powers agreement. And then for clarification, also item X on the consent agenda should read that the ordering of the assessment, preparation of the assessment roll should be for the 21 projects, not the 2022 projects.
Okay.
Approve resolution 2021-025 authorizing the execution of joint powers agreement.
Not sure what's going on.
Also, item.
Okay. You might have to help me remember. So it was D and E.
D and E are to be removed.
Yep.
And item F needs to be adjusted to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of the joint powers agreement.
All right.
And item X is for the 21 projects, not the 22 projects.
Very good. Very good. Were there any public comments?
None received.
Okay, we'll press forward. We got quite a lengthy reading here. Consent agenda. The following items were considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda, and the item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve city council work session minutes from April 6, 2021. B, approve city council minutes from April 6, 2021. C, approve the payment of bills and finance report. We'll skip D and E. We'll go to F and add the approving resolution of the extension of the joint powers agreement between the state of Minnesota and the city of Baxter and the prosecuting city attorney. G, approve permit for retail sales of fireworks for Cub Foods, Target, and Walmart for the period of May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. H, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from April 7th, 2021. I, accept the MS4 Stormwater Standard Operating Procedures. J, approve the HR Green Professional Services Agreement for the MS4 Stormwater Program Update in the not to exceed amount of $30,000. K, approve the Crow Wing County Highway Department's 2021 pavement marking cost share agreement. L, approve the Widsith agreement for professional engineering services for the water supply system risk and resilience assessment in the not to exceed amount of $12,000. M, amend the water interconnect building improvements cost estimate in the amount of $24,600 for a total estimated project cost of $76,000. And accept the emergency bypass of the water treatment plant standard operating procedures. O, approve delaying the KLM warranty repairs to the North Water Tower until 2022. P, approve delaying the KLM proposal for engineering and construction services on the East Water Tower in the fixed fee of $55,542 until 2022. Q, approve the KLM proposal for clean out and disinfection of the South Water Tower in the amount of $3,800. R, approve Anderson Brothers Construction Change Order number 7 in the amount of $1,485 for the 2020 Fairview Road, Golf Course Drive, Excelsior Road and Trail Connection, 2020 Oakwood Drive Trail Connection Improvement Project. S, approve the special event application for 2021 Kiwanis Kids Triathlon. T, adopt ordinance 2021-006, amending the text of Title 5, Chapter 3 of the Baxter City Code, and adopt ordinance 2021-007, summary ordinance 2021-006. You adopt ordinance 2021-004, amending the text of Title 3, Chapter 18 of the Baxter City Code, and adopt ordinance 2021-005, summary of ordinance 2021-004. V, approve resolution 2021-021, approving a conditional use permit to allow a garden center use for farmers market produce sales at the Westport Shopping Center, located at 14091 Baxter Circle. W, adopt resolution 2021-024, approving a lawful gambling permit for the Baxter Lions Club to conduct gambling at El Tequila Mexican Restaurant. And X, we have adopt resolution number 2021-022, declaring costs to be assessed and ordering preparation of proposal assessment of the 2021, I have that right, mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project. Y, adopt resolution number 2021-203023, calling a hearing on proposed assessment for the 2021 mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project. Z, accept planning and zoning commission minutes from April 13th, 2021. Look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Cross.
Second.
Second by Tabbitt. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
yes,
Tabbitt,
Yes.
Ward,
yes,
Olson.
Yes. I hope I got those changes right there. Start to lose my voice here by the time I got done there. Moving on to number 8, other business. Other business 8A, approve resolutions 2021-018, 019, 020, and ordinance 2021-003, approving the preliminary and final plat of Central Lakes Crossing 4th Edition, rezoned from PUD planned unit development to C2 regional commercial, conditional use permits for a drive-through car wash use, and a joint access and variances to Title 10 of the zoning ordinance for property located at 7361 Glory Road. Josh?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Bear with me as I get the screen shared here. Hopefully everyone can see the, can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Well, the mayor introduced the applications here very well. So we do have a number of applications for this particular request. So we do have a preliminary and final plat, rezoning, conditional use permits, and variances. On the first page of the presentation here, I just wanted to point out there's kind of 2 variance categories. To just try to walk the city council through this a little bit. This application was reviewed by the Planning Commission last Tuesday. And at the hearing, the motion made by, or the vote put forward by the Planning Commission was to recommend approval subject to some changes to the site plan, which got rid of some of the variances. And so on this page, you'll see basically there's 2 variances that are in front of you this evening. When the application first came to the city and was reviewed by the Planning Commission a week ago, there were 6 variances. It was thought that 3 variances would likely go away, but actually 4 variances went away. And so we're left with just 2 variances. So I've tried to outline those so the council can follow that. And I'll walk the council through the particular changes to the plan that was made within the last week in between the Planning Commission hearing and tonight's meeting. So the 2 variances that are left are to allow accessory structure setback to the vacuums along Glory Road. And the other variance is to allow the lack of an escape lane with the stacking lane. The variances that were removed since the Planning Commission were to allow structure setbacks to the, to allow the setbacks to the mechanical equipment along Glory, priority placement of landscaping along Glory Road, as well as screening for the mechanical equipment and vacuums, and to allow parking stalls that were 18 where 20 feet is required. So those 4 variances went away in the last week here. So looking at the site here, just to get everyone oriented with where this is at the southwest corner of Glory Road and Highway 371. The blue outline, the solid outline, is the overall property that's being reviewed with the plat. The dashed line that goes cuts through the middle in an east-west fashion is the proposed split of this property. Specifically, the northerly property that would get created under the plat would become the lot for the car wash, and the southerly lot would become an outlot for future development considerations at a later date. And you can see that on the preliminary plat here. You can see the lot line cutting through on the north central portion of the property, dividing what was 1 lot to 2. And this is the draft final plat as well. So to try to outline the specific changes that the applicant made to the request after the Planning Commission, I've attempted to put 2 site plans side by side so you can kind of see. It's difficult to pick up, so I'll try to walk you through it a little bit here. But the left site plan is the plan that was submitted to the Planning Commission, and the right site plan is the plan as amended. I'd focus your attention to the stalls along the north property line. On the left plan, there are 14 parking stalls along Glory Road at the top. And on the right plan, that's reduced down to 10 stalls. So 4 stalls were removed. And by removing those 4 stalls, they were able to pull those parking stalls south by approximately 11 feet to allow additional space to provide landscaping along Glory Road. By doing that, they also increased the setback from the vacuums to the lot line from 10 feet to 21 feet approximately. With the exception of that, the rest of the site plan basically remains the same. And again, that was a recommended plan change by the Planning Commission as part of their vote. So to zoom in a little bit, this is the first plan that was submitted with the application and the second plan. I hate to do this to you, but if I go back and forth, sometimes you can see those changes pop off of the map if you look at the parking lot. So I won't make you dizzy any longer. I'll move forward. This is a site plan, or excuse me, a landscape plan that was submitted also as a revised document. One of the variances was regarding landscaping and screening along the priority placement areas as outlined in the ordinance, which are along the street frontages. And this property has 2 street frontages along Glory and along Highway 371. So they've added trees along both roadways to meet the ordinance requirements. In addition, I would draw your attention to the northerly part. Again, those parking stalls. You'll see the larger trees, those are overstory trees, and then the smaller circles just north of the parking lot represent arborvitae that would be planted because all of those 10 stalls have vacuums that are along those parking stalls. And then the mechanical equipment lies in this corner off of the east end of the 10 stalls. Previously, the mechanical equipment, which operates all the vacuums, and it's a big piece of mechanical equipment, was further to the north as well. And so by pulling that south, the setback variance of 35 feet is now being complied with by pushing that further south. One thing I also wanted to just mention, just so the council can follow kind of what's going on with the lot lines, the plat, specifically the plat includes a dedication of 10 feet of right-of-way to the city of Baxter. That is required out of the, that is required out of the traffic study that was completed in 2016 when this application, not this application, but an application for development was reviewed back in that year. A traffic study was completed and it was identified that there's a future need for a left turn lane, so a second left turn lane at the intersection of 371 and Glory. And that would be if you were leaving, say, Walmart and headed towards the intersection at Glory and 371. Right now, there's only one left turn lane at that intersection to turn and go northbound on 371. The traffic study identifies the future need for a second left turn lane. In order to construct that in the future, the city is going to need some additional land because you're going to need an additional lane. When that intersection gets reworked, then the trail, which is on the south side of Glory Road, would need to be pushed further south. So there is a 10-foot dedication with the plat. We would have an additional 10 feet. In addition to that, on the south side of the 10-foot dedicated property, there is a drainage and utility and trail easement that would allow the trail to be ultimately constructed in the 10 feet of right-of-way or within the dedicated easement. So that's 20 feet. In addition to that, the application included the revised removal of those 10 stalls further to the south by another 11 feet. So we're talking about, in total, about 31 feet in terms of kind of that spacing from the existing lot line as it sits today. This is the color renderings of what the car wash would look like. This is the same developer of the car wash that's already in Baxter on Delwood. This car wash building is a different design building than the car wash that is already in the city of Baxter, meaning that this specific car wash includes kind of a turnaround area within the building. So cars, instead of going into the building in one direction and leaving in that same straight direction, you actually turn your vehicle inside the building and come out the same way you came in. It's kind of a U shape, if you will, building. So a bit different design with this particular request. Looking at the plat includes the subdivision of the property to create a buildable lot and an outlot. The lots that are proposed meet the city's requirements. The requirements in the resolution for meeting the city's park dedication requirements prior to recording the plat. I mentioned the traffic study that was created in 2016, and although the left turn lane that I mentioned is a future improvement, it's not something that is required based on the traffic generation from this car wash. But in the future, as commercial development continues in this area, there will be a point in time when a development triggers the need for that left turn lane. Mentioned the right-of-way previously. In terms of access, the property would gain access in a right-in, right-out fashion on the site adjacent to the subject lot. But in terms of a left turn lane into the site, the customers would turn at the main Walmart entrance, travel southbound for a bit, and then take a left and go into the site that way. And I'll show that in just a couple minutes. There is a rezoning with this application. The current zoning of the property is plan unit development. In 2016, the development that got approved was a strip mall that never moved forward. That was a rezoning to plan unit development. Those approvals have since expired, but the PUD zoning on the property still remains. So the applicant either needed to rezone and create a PUD amendment or rezone to C2. So this is a rezoning from basically one commercial zoning district to another. In terms of the review factors that the city looks at with rezoning applications. The first thing to look at is how it relates to the land use, the future land use plan and the comp plan. It's identified as a commercial area. There is, in terms of transition of use, it's in a block of commercial land, and there are utilities present to serve the development. In terms of conditional use permits, there are conditional use permits being requested for the car wash and for the drive-through. The application meets the standards in the ordinance with one exception, and that's one of the two variances, and that's for the escape lane out of the stacking lane. The other conditional use permit that's being requested is for joint access. This property ties in with the Walmart parking lot layout, as well as the lot to the south, the outlot. And because those are all different properties, there needs to be easements put in place to allow joint access between all three properties. And so there is a conditional use permit to allow that. And easements would have to get amended from the present easements that are in place today to allow joint access between all three properties. The variances I mentioned here, setback variances, there's a 35-foot setback required from the Glory Lane property to the vacuums and the vacuum pads. The request for the variance is to allow a 21-foot setback approximately. In addition to that, there's the variance for the escape lane. Utilities Commission reviewed this application and provided comments and conditions. Those conditions have been incorporated into the resolution. In terms of architectural review, the city hasn't completed the architectural review, but it is thought the application should be able to meet the standards for administrative review. With that, the Planning Commission is recommending approval of the application, subject to the ordinance and conditions and findings in the attached resolutions and the ordinance. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council has.
Okay. Got a lot of stuff there. Council, any questions, comments to Josh before we move on? Mark?
Yeah, I think Josh answered all my questions I had on it. I guess my only concern is be nice if this could get done without any variances. Allowing equipment in the setback, could pose a potential problem. The other question I have is, so what happens if somebody gets into this stacking lane and gets stacked up and they find out that their vehicle won't go through for some reason? Is there a way out? If there isn't a lane to get out, is there some other way for them to get out of this without going through the car wash?
Mayor, Councilmember Cross, the variance is required because the stacking lane, which is along the south drive aisle that enters the site here on the site plan, it's a single lane that switches to a double lane. So this is all of the stacking entering the building at this point. Can you guys see my cursor here by chance? Anyone? Okay. Well, you can see on the south end of the building, there's rectangles that represent stacked cars in a double lane on the south end. So that is what staff would view the stacking lane. And right now there's no way out of that. So once you enter that stacking lane, you are stuck there until you either go through the car wash, or on the north end of the car wash building, there's some bituminous and there's actually an overhead door on the north side of the car wash. So there is an opportunity to exit from the building, and that would be just prior to the actual car wash, the mechanical parts of the car wash starting. So although there's an exit out of the building, there is no stacking exiting lane. So to answer your question, there's an opportunity to leave the building before the car wash starts for your car. but there's no ability to leave any of the stacking lane.
Okay.
Do most car washes have that ability? I know there's been times when I felt like I was stuck if I couldn't find my card, no matter what car wash I was at.
Good question, Mayor, Councilmember Licio. There are some car washes that were developed prior to these requirements, and we have some just in terms of drive-throughs in general. We have drive-throughs that don't have the escape lane that were built prior to that requirement, and we have others that do have the escape lane. So yeah, there are examples of both that you'll find in Baxter. In terms of their other car wash, they do have an escape lane on Universal. The problem with that particular escape lane is that they've experienced problems because where it got designed was after the pay order station and having people come in for a free car wash. So ideally where you'd want the escape lane is just prior to the ordering portion of the menu board, where you could escape, where basically that single lane on the south turns into a double stacked lane where you'd be able to exit out to the right or have a lane that goes all the way around the building, a drive aisle, if there was a desire to comply with that escape lane ordinance and or provide that. Those would be the options to the developer.
So is there any reason they couldn't put a lane around the building?
From an ordinance perspective, I don't believe, I don't see a reason why they couldn't. They have a view corridor easement that they need to comply with. If you look just south of the building, you'll see some dashed lanes there. That's actually an easement from Walmart to protect a view corridor from the actual intersection of Glory and 371.
Sure.
So that view corridor easement is intended to prevent permanent structures. But in terms of a bituminous surface on the ground where no one would be parking, I would assume that would be acceptable in terms of an improvement into the view corridor easement that's in place and deed restricting the property. But I guess that would be for the applicant to speak to.
Well, I would think it would be, since the last thing we approved on this piece of property had a patio in the view corridor. So,
right. My understanding is it's regarding permanent parking or structures built up that would block the view.
sure, that's the way I understood it too. So if they can do it, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't do it.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just asking in the presentation, Josh, I may have missed it as things got a little bit thick there, and it looked like, so this is suggested to be approved by the commission, and then I'm assuming the way it all came out, staff, in your estimation from all of the things you've seen and working with the applicant, it appears as though you're comfortable with the concept of approval based on what's presented.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Tabbitt, I think we did recommend approval at the Planning Commission meeting, and I would say that the applicant has addressed the Planning Commission vote in terms of the conditions at which they expected revised plans prior to the council. They've addressed all of those topics raised by the Planning Commission. So yes, there's comfort there. You know, the stacking lane, there is a lane out of the building, but you know, when you look at the spirit and intent of the ordinance, it's to allow people the chance to not be trapped in the lane in case there's slowness of the wash or slowness of any drive-through. And so, you know, those items could be debated. But yes, they've addressed the Planning Commission's basically conditions, if you will.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I would, obviously, we're going to call on the applicant here to respond here too. I would just say that there's a lot of discussion, long meeting, and I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that to look at this application, no matter what it was, whether it's immaterial that it was a car wash, but to see an application come in on this piece of property with, I forget, it was 6 or 7 variances, was pretty overwhelming. And normally, if you see that many variances, that maybe this isn't the spot, for whatever the project might be. And so it was looked at, it was scrutinized, pretty well. Concerns were, it's a very visible piece of property. I have vacuum cleaners right up against the trail, and lack of, right away. We require right away for a purpose, snow storage, so on and so forth. And so all of those things were debated and talked about. The escape lane, we've kind of worked over the years to incorporate that with people's plans, to give people an option to get out. On a busy day, if that thing is packed and you're in there and you get a phone call, an emergency phone call or whatever, you aren't going anywhere. You are part of that project until you can get to that escape door. That's a concern of mine too. I don't think that I know why they're doing it, because of the space confinements in their opinion based on the ordinance. So I understand it. I don't think it's the healthiest thing either. Now, having said those things, we started at 6, and they did spend time with staff. I appreciate that on both sides of that equation. A lot of hard charging, fast actions that took place, and got it whittled down to 2. If that could be resolved, I'd be happy with that too. But we're going to let the applicant respond, and I'm not sure who's going to speak to us tonight, but you heard some of the concerns. If you want to address that, and any comments you might want to add. You know who's here, Josh? Or?
Yeah, Kelly, if you can unmute Mike England. I believe Mike's present. Maybe he could start.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you tonight, and certainly want to say thank you to staff as well for working through the process. And as we've been working through with the site and the design, it certainly is a unique site as in terms of what the viewing corridor and with the additional right away on the north side, certainly took a lot of careful considerations. To answer your question regarding the exit lane, we've actually gone to and toured current or recent car washes where the whole concept behind this design and the site design is that as you pay and enter in, the stacking is then located, as you can see, within what's called the carousel. And so what that allows is essentially it's a vestibule for the car wash, if you think about it in those terms, but it allows for a conditioned area where the pre-wash can occur inside the building. As Mr. Doty had stated, the applicant has, in his opinion, and in our opinion, that the exit lane does occur on the north side, so you are allowed to have access out. There's a couple of things that in viewing this, if you were to allow, let's just say, an exit lane that would go to the south around the building, with the 2 lanes there, you still have the condition where maybe somebody in that left lane wouldn't necessarily have access out. If you have stacking like we have it shown on the site plan that you can see on the screen, having one there doesn't really solve that problem if it's a busy day. That's why the design and the location, that exit lane on the north side there's 2 lanes that then condense into one, and you're able to leave the car wash, and that's prior to entering into the car wash. Now, what was done and what was approved with the Four Seasons Car Wash in Baxter is that the escape lane actually does occur after the pay station. So what we're proposing here is actually consistent with that. And then just taking a look at these and seeing that in person and how that operates. The other thing with this car wash is that there is staff available, that if somebody were to pull up to the pay station, wasn't able to go, you would be able to then be led through there, and then they would open up the overhead door. We did provide a drawing that just tried to explain how that would work, and some visuals of some car washes that we visited. So as far as the exit lane is concerned, so that's really the thought process behind that. And then what it also does is it eliminates the confusion of where the actual entrance is. Currently on the Baxter Four Seasons Car Wash is that there's confusion with, as Mr. Doty said, some folks that try to enter in there, and then of course that's on the wrong side of where the pay station is. So there certainly has been some careful consideration with this new design with car washes. That's how I guess that's just a trend, and it's really worked well from the safety of the workers, trying to provide that conditioned kind of vestibule space for pre-wash prior to entering in. So I just wanted to make a few comments on that, and certainly appreciate the question, and maybe taking a look at that floor plan we provided, or it might help just kind of take a look at that too. But certainly Chad Connor and myself are available for any additional questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments, questions for him while he's on the line? Not seeing any.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I got a little late on the mute button there, but I am just a little curious on that exit note. I can't tell from my ability to see all the drawings exactly, but just for the sake of discussing that exit lane, if you were to turn absent-mindedly into this, there's absolutely no way out unless you go all the way into the building and through. Like, just the second you hit the property, you're in. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Josh, do you have the picture available, the actual picture of what that interior looked like?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So if you look at this upper left elevation, you can see the double doors on the right. That's the double stacking where you enter the building, and then your car would actually turn a full 180. And right after your car turns a full 180, the only option to escape then would be off to the left, or go straight through the car wash and come out this circular overhead door. So going back to the site plan, you can see the double stack lane, and at the point where it enters the building, again, your cars would turn that 180, and right to the right there, where the bituminous is on the north side, is where the exit would be, out of the car wash right before the mechanical part of the washing of the cars starts. But yeah, once you turn onto the car wash lot and enter the stacking lane, you can't get out until you right before your car would begin being washed mechanically.
Any other questions of him or comments? Anybody else on your team, Mike, want to talk, or?
I don't think so, Mr. Mayor. I think we're good. We're just excited and appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you tonight.
Thank you for your time. Okay, it's decision time. Um,
Mr. Mayor, one more. What's the timeline for this project?
The timeline would be to begin construction right away this summer. I don't know if you can hear me still or not, but
Yep.
Yep, we can.
okay.
Okay, Josh, if this is going to move forward, how do you want to see you want individual motions on each of these resolutions? You've got 3 resolutions, an ordinance change.
You know, in terms of the vote, the rezoning, plat, conditional use permits and variances, they're all a simple majority requirement for a vote. You can combine them or separate them if you wish. You know, the need to combine them would be, you know, if there was going different directions with one versus another. So for whoever makes a motion. So that's where it gets confusing if it's all one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, otherwise all one motion works. If that made sense, if anyone tracked me.
Well, what we have here is a big paragraph with a lot of numbers and words. And so I guess if we could dissect it, if we're going to, would we start with the approving the preliminary and final plat, or?
If you're going to separate out anything, you know, you could separate out the ordinance for the rezoning. And just switching to.
How about I make a motion to approve everything except the variances at this point?
Both variances, or?
Both variances. Yeah, we'll consider those separately.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Cross. Was that you, Zach, or?
It was, if I understood correctly, just to reconfirm before I confirm my second, that what I understood that to be was we're going to talk about the variances separately. Everything else we're moving to approve right now.
Correct.
All right, I'll second that.
Motion by Cross, second by Tabbitt. Does everybody understand that to start with here? Any further discussion on that part? Brad?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes,
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna take a stab on the,
I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the distance to the property line on the mechanical vacuum units.
I can second that.
motion by Cross, second by Licio. Everybody understand that motion? Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes,
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
And then I'll make a final motion to deny the variance on eliminating the drive aisle requirement in a drive-through.
I have a motion by Cross.
I have a question on that. If we don't approve that variance, will the project still go forward?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Licio, that would be up to the applicant to decide if they're willing to provide the escape lane as the motion indicates. So that would really be the applicant's choice at that point.
It would be hypocritical of me to go against my own conscience here. I think the escape thing is necessary. I think it's important. I think we've tried to do that in the past, and so I'm going to go ahead and second it to get it on the floor anyway and see where it goes. But
Well, just to piggyback on your comment, Mr. Mayor, I think I know variances don't necessarily set precedents, but it always seems that once we do something for one project, it always comes back to bite us later, and we get it back at us. So I'd hate to see the next drive-through come through and not do this escape lane because they think they can get by with it, a variance for it. I can't see a hardship. They have the property to do it, and it can be done within the within the confines of the lot without having to have a variance to do the drive-by lane, the bypass lane. So I have a hard time passing a variance when there's not a hardship in my mind.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
have a motion. Everybody understand? Go ahead. Somebody say something.
Mr. Mayor, could we hear from the Mr. England about Councilperson Lysio's question about the project? If he's still on here, Mr. England?
Hi, can you hear me? This is Mike.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, I am actually trying to get the owner the call-in number so that he can call in and speak directly to you, if that's okay.
Is that what we're going to base our history on here, or are we?
No, I was just curious more than anything.
Right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the point about the safety issue is of utmost importance, no question about it. And Councilman Cross's recommendation about setting a precedence is also important. And but I think it's also good to hear from those that have ventured into this project. If possible.
It clarified it a lot in my mind when I heard Councilmember Cross explain that there was the space to do that.
Well, hearing none, no response, Mr. Mayor, maybe we should just go forward then.
Okay.
Hello, this is Mike.
Yep.
Hi, I just emailed the call-in number to the applicant, and so he would like to speak, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If for no other reason but to continue the discussion while we're waiting, I'm a little curious. How do maybe no one here is prepared to speak on it, but I may have missed the full description in all of the notes we've been given on how the current design doesn't meet our standard for the escape lane. What's the kind of technicality there that maybe the applicant.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
We can hear somebody.
Okay. Yeah, this is Nate Pearson. I'm the owner of the car wash. I just want to discuss that escape lane that you guys are discussing, or that you have been discussing. If you're familiar with our first site that we developed, I think it was in 17 into 18, or 18 into 19. We have an escape lane that was approved that was after the pay station, and which works great. And that essentially, that escapes after the pay stations, they just take a right. So we've designed a new building with a partial stacking inside just to kind of combat the weather and provide a little bit better experience. And there's an escape to the north that serves the same purpose as what we're in now, which would be any emergency vehicle or anytime somebody wouldn't be able to go through the wash due to some sort of vehicle modification or something in the back. So what we've provided is identical in ability to escape to what was approved the initial, on our initial first build. And this has been built before, and that escape lane is very effective, as is the one that we have now. Because very rarely, or I shouldn't say very rarely, but not real often are people having to escape prior to getting stacked in tight. But we can move cars through that stacking area very quickly and send them back around if there's an emergency behind them and whatever emergency that would be. So that the escape lane, it's a true escape lane. If we're going to compare it to the initial build, they just come after the pay stations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for him, Council?
Mayor,
Yeah.
if I could just read the ordinance requirement, just so you guys can hear what the ordinance says exactly. It says for drive-through businesses, bypass lane required, it says a bypass lane shall be provided for each drive-through use, allowing cars to leave the drive-through lane from the stacking area. Staff has made the review that there is no escape lane from the stacking lane. The applicant just made an argument that we are providing escape, but it's from inside the building, and that the building is part of the stacking lane. It's a difference of view.
I would just ask you, Josh, you were involved in the other building, we weren't. So is it tit for tat? Is it the same, or are we missing something here?
I understand the owner's argument there. It is factual that there's an escape in both examples after the order station. The difference is that the current car wash, the escape is still out of the exterior stacking lane, where you can curve off to the right and get back to the public street, whereas this one is leaving an actual building. When you look at you have to look at kind of what the spirit and intent of that ordinance requirement is. Is it to allow someone who forgot their wallet to get out before they go through and get a free car wash at the very end? Or is the intent of the escape lane to allow people to exit who change their mind for any number of reasons at some point in the drive lane? And I think it serves one of those intents, but maybe not the other. So I guess it's really, that's why I wanted to read the specific ordinance requirement. It says a bypass lane shall be provided for each drive-through use, allowing cars to leave the drive-through lane from the stacking area. Based on reading that, that's why the variance was required. But
thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll call for the vote. Brad?
The vote was to deny the variance for the drive-through bypass lane, and motion by Cross, seconded by Olson. We'll go roll call. Councilmember Cross.
Yes.
Tabbitt.
No.
Licio.
No.
Ward.
No.
Olson.
Yes. That motion passes, and we move forward to be approved.
There was 2 yeses and 3 noes to the motion for denial.
Yeah, that's what I meant the other way. It passes the other way.
So
Gotcha.
we'll still need a motion to approve.
Gotcha. All right, so look for a motion then to approve that variance. Sorry.
I'll move approval.
Motion by Zach,
I'll second.
second by Ward. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
No.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
And no, sorry to confuse that. That's my fault there. Okay, are we good with that one, Brad?
Not a problem. Just want to make sure
Yeah,
the approval of the variance was on record. So
thank you very much. Now we move on to B, approve the Four Seasons Car Wash Baxter 2 development agreement contingent on the developer addressing staff comments.
I'll just clump B and C together. They're both typical agreements that we have for developments. The first one is a development agreement, the improvements that are to be done in accordance to our standards. And then the second one is stormwater maintenance facility to assure that the stormwater improvements are done and maintained in accordance to our MS4 standards. So if there are any questions of staff, we'll entertain them at this time.
Okay, Mark?
Yes, either Brad or Josh. All of the comments that were included in the motion with the Utilities Commission, did those get into either the conditions or into the developers agreement?
I would defer to Public Works Director Walter to answer that.
And specifically, I'm talking about the hold the city harmless on snow plowing damage when it comes to the plowing of either the roads or the trails.
I saw that in there, but Trevor can.
Mayor, City Council, Trevor here. Yes, everything will be in that developer's agreement. I don't know, the trail easement is where that damage liability needs to go, and I have not seen that final draft of that trail easement.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I believe that's in the resolution that relates to the conditional use permit and variances. I believe it's in there. I'm just confirming.
Okay.
I'll be with you in just 1 second. Yes, it's in there. It's in the resolution for the plat.
Okay.
For a hold harmless, yes.
Okay. So Brad, are you wanting to combine them or are you wanting a motion on B and C both separate?
They can be done either way. I just wanted to lump it together. Typically, these items are on consent, but due to the fact that the variances were part of other business, we didn't want to approve those prior to the action that you just took. So we pulled them into the other business to be taking action after the plat, the rezoning, and the variances. So
Gotcha.
either or.
All right, look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve both of those.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Licio. Any further discussion, comments? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, I think that finishes that. We're on to council comments. Connie?
Yeah, I had family in this past weekend from out of town, and we were able to visit two of our Baxter parks. And first of all, I was so happily impressed with the condition of the parks already. Secondly, the parks were so well used. People of all ages were there playing, and comments were received by family members about how awesome our parks are. So I took extreme pride in that, even though I really had nothing to do with it. My only beef was reading the signs about, respectful use of the playground. I did with the very last line, which made some reference to if you are over the age of 60, you need to take special care. But anyway, just a funny side note. But again, Baxter proud. It was just really nice to hear those compliments.
I heard about somebody over there with a magic marker taking that out. So
Guilty as charged.
Zach?
I'll just say that I'm looking forward to being in the same building again here now. I feel like it's finally time to have a little bit more optimism about the way things are going, and hopefully we can continue on the right path to being done with the remote and emergency situation we're going through.
Okay, thank you. John, Mr. Ward?
Mr. Mayor, I got no comments today.
Okay. Mark?
Well, my only comment is it will get warm one of these days, so please watch out for motorcycles.
Okay. I thought it was kind of cruel the other day. The sun was shining. It was so beautiful, but it was only 35 degrees. It was cruel. It was just plain cruel. But other than that, we're not flooded, at least in our neighborhoods here. City Administrator?
You need to toughen up a little bit, Consul.
Well, wait, Mr. Ward's going to bring the sunshine back, so everything's. Brad?
No report from the administrator's desk.
City Attorney?
We need a motion to go into closed session regarding purchase of property.
Okay.
Connie will make a motion to go into closed.
Second.
Motion by Alessio, second by Ward. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Lucio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, we're back into open session at 8:24 rather. And no action is being taken. We have directed staff to continue negotiations, and we'll see where that leads us to. If there's nothing else on the agenda, we will look for an adjournment of our meeting for tonight.
I'm gonna
Motion
make
to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion by Connie, second by, it looks like Cross. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit. Tabit?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, concludes our night. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.
You too.